The beginning, just a growl?
Yeah, just growl.
Okay. Right now?
Yeah.
Roar.
Hello there. This is Drew here with my little sister, Ashley.
Little bear. Roar. Hey.
Yeah, big, scary, bear-like sister. Bear of a sister.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. You are listening to New Release for the first time in a month, you think? More?
3 weeks?
Yeah, it's been a while. One of the longer breaks we've taken, but, we're enjoying summer life.
Yes.
What do we do here on New Release, Ashley?
We watch shows that we enjoy and share them with the world.
Make our favorite TV shows feel special.
Yeah, Rainbow. Meow.
Yeah. This is episode 254 of New Release. Prime or not prime?
Divisible Baby. That sounded just like mine.
Yeah. That was you. That was I just recorded it and played it
right.
back.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you couldn't guess from the episode title, the sound effects, Ashley's incredible co-host, a bear, then I'll just let you know we watched and we're discussing season 4 of The Bear. We're not going to do any other catch up. We're going to pretty much jump right in. But, of course, I think I ended up cutting out our discussion on one of the previous episodes about the problems that we had with season 3. Mm-hmm. So is there anything you want to say about, as a quick recap of either your experience with season 3 or just the plot of season 3 before we jump into the new one?
Sure. You don't need to watch it. No one needs to watch season 3 if they don't want to. Nothing solved or really accomplished. It's just a deep dive into character development. Each episode's a different character, which is fine. But overall, you don't really need to watch it if you're interested in what happens to the restaurant or anyone's lives. Nothing gets solved.
I think one of our main complaints was just that, it's such a slog. Carmi is being so exacting in the kitchen and absolutely closed off to anyone else's needs or feelings in the kitchen. And then it's all building up the big cliffhanger of season 3, which could have come halfway through, or, it's already documented in the press that this was a 3-season arc, and in season 3 was broken into 2 parts.
Yeah.
So season 3 ends with them getting the review, but we don't actually see. We kind of see him looking at it on his phone, I feel like, but we don't see what the review says. We
don't know whether Sydney's going to take the job at the new restaurant where she'd be running it, or a lot of other things. So.
Yeah, I mean, it ends on a really kind of uplifting or kind of celebratory episode. I mean, it's a funeral, so maybe
oh,
that's
right.
Is all these chefs, and most of them played by real famous chefs, getting together for one last dinner as this institution ever is closing in Chicago. So it's the end of an era of sorts for that restaurant, but potentially for this high-end restaurant, climate overall. But I'll go ahead and play the teaser, and then we'll talk about that.
Sounds good.
These are the bears.
There's probably one really true thing about restaurants. You are never alone.
I don't want to hide from things.
This place is fancy. I'm not fancy.
They're beautiful.
Sometimes I feel like your work family is part of your family.
If you're lucky.
Not now, homie.
I haven't watched the trailer, so I don't even know what some of that is.
Season 4, before we get into the review, opens with a flashback, as the show often does. You want to describe that?
Yeah, it's actually really sweet. It's with Carmi and Mikey, and they're in the kitchen, and Mikey's helping him or critiquing him cooking his sauce. But they're discussing like business and going into business together. And Carmi wants to name the restaurant Mikey, and I teared up a little bit. I was like, oh. So
yeah,
it was a really sweet moment because you don't get obviously much of Mikey because he passed away in the first season or before the first season even started. So you get flashbacks, but that was like the longest flashback I think of him. So it was really touching. It's very good.
Yeah, what we know about Mikey is that he is like kind of the hottest, the brightest, and the hottest in the family. I mean, their mother as well operates at a pretty high level, manically, and it was his what made him so magnetic as a person and personality, but ultimately it probably fueled his addiction issues and made it hard for him to maintain that on a day-to-day basis. And what we're seeing this season, I want to talk eventually about how clear and obvious of a trajectory the show seems to be on.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like the plot is predetermined, but on an emotional level, what this season is exploring is, has Carmi lost that spark that he had in that first scene in the kitchen that Mikey recognized in him, that his sister recognizes
You clearly
in
watched
him.
more than the first episode.
Well, I did watch 2 episodes. I'll go ahead and say that.
I just finished the second one, so we're on the same page.
Okay. Yeah. So we're on the same page. Yeah. I mean, she explicitly asks him that question. So we are spoiling episodes 1 and 2. I've already seen, this is a binge release, and I've been trying to avoid headlines that sum up the whole season. Obviously, people will be watching it at a different rate. What's your plan for doling it out?
I'm really trying to do one episode at a time. And
A day.
Pretty much. I don't even know. Like, I really don't want to finish it that quickly.
Yeah.
How many episodes are there? 8?
I didn't look ahead because I didn't even want to see that. But I'd say between 8 and 10 would be my guess.
Okay. So I'll probably finish it next week.
Yeah. I think our plan for listeners out there will be, we're going to talk about the first 2 episodes today, and then we're going to, in probably 2 weeks, talk about the full season.
Yeah.
So that's assuming we want more.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stop now.
Yeah. Well, like Ashley said, we were in a holding pattern for season 3. What did you think? Let's start with the review since we already brought it up. What was your takeaway from the review?
They fell short.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
They lacked the bare necessities.
LOL. Did it say that in the? I couldn't remember the argument.
That was the headline.
Article. Yeah, nice. They just fell short, but I think now that they have the timeline set by their uncle of the restaurant potentially closing, and I really love that they brought in whatever that crew is to like make them successful in like every avenue of the restaurant. Like, I really like that. I like that role. I was like, that seems sick to do that. But.
Yeah, so that they brought in I wish I knew exactly what the terminology was. But Richie, who's like, I guess. I mean, I'm sure there's basically she's the CEO of the kitchen, but Richie is like the front of house, and then there's the back of house kitchen, and Carmi was the dictator last season, but a very insulated, non-charismatic dictator. Yeah. I mean, he was just like leading by example, but his example was brutal. And so Richie recognizes his shortcomings and brings in one of the people that if I remember correctly, trained him during the Forks episode. Yep. So, and he was maybe at the restaurant doing a brief stint. So, and maybe there's some other new faces that she brought along, but there's like a moment where he's like, I'm not going to hire anyone else. And they're like, else. And then she comes in, and Carmi, to his credit, 2 episodes in, is finally letting go of the rope and
relinquishing a little control, just a little.
Yeah, I mean, I would say almost a lot, but in such a passive way. Like he's still closed off emotionally and not sharing with people. But when people are scared of him, like Io, Sydney's character. But when they ask him for stuff, he just rolls over immediately.
Yeah.
Or, like is cool with it. So, I think what was so, aside from the plot being stagnant in season 3, his development as a character was completely stagnant. And we're already seeing him let go a little bit. He's still closed off, but at least he's letting go of some of the responsibility.
Do you think that he's going to end up giving the whole restaurant to Sydney?
I think there's a couple really obvious outcomes that we'll get to, but let's, like you mentioned, we'll say that for a minute. There is a ticking clock. This show loves
Oh my gosh,
a ticking clock. I
Should
feel
be
like
a
we've
little
had this
stressful.
exact. Well, we had this exact device when they were opening the restaurant, right? Yeah,
well,
we had
yeah,
like
but
a
it
countdown.
wasn't set to like
The
the
second.
demise of the restaurant.
Yeah. Well, why don't you just clarify what the clock represents?
So the clock is set by their uncle, who basically fronted all the money for the restaurant. And once the clock runs out, if they're not extremely successful, and basically,
Yeah.
is it 2 months, 3 months?
2 months.
2 months, and it's to the minute on the clock. So
Yeah,
extra
like 1,400
level of
hours or
stress.
something.
Yeah. Once that runs out, if they're not making a crazy profit, then they're going to shut down.
Yeah,
So-
and that's originally, I mean, that's what they said, and then the more they teased it out, and the more they beat the dead horse metaphor, which was pretty funny. He's their uncle Oliver Plath's character is kind of his second in command is the computer, and
I like the computer
so
a
they're
lot.
just riffing back and forth about how dead the restaurant is, basically. Regardless, like they don't see any path
If they get a
where they
star.
could turn things around, except this do ex machina of the Michelin star that could just fall out of the sky and ordain their restaurant important. If that's a thing that anyone cares about anymore, so seemingly that's the Hail Mary, is that they get this Michelin star, and so they're on the lookout. Although, whoever comes in that works for Michelin will be incognito, but they're going to try to do their best to improve service, simplify the food out of cost necessity, and at least, I don't know, like, are you interested in the bear surviving as it is?
No. But
Yeah.
I do think that, so what if instead of the bear, that part of the restaurant getting the star, the sandwiches do? Or some type
I mean-
of, like, thing. Because they're selling out. They're like
Yeah.
really well known. I think they're going to like amplify that part of the business, and then something is going to like mix with that into like the restaurant and make something like fresh and new. And that's how I get the star. Calling it.
I mean, yeah, well, no, I 100% agree. Like, so there's one business that's hemorrhaging money, and that's the bear. And there's one that's on a skyrocket trajectory, and that's the sandwich shop, and they sell out every day. And the guy who's running it, do you know that
Ibrahim.
character's name?
Ibrahim?
Yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah, so he was kind of ostracized from the main kitchen to the sandwich window, and he took that challenge took that as a challenge, and instead of being discouraged, he admits to Carmi he felt a little left out, but instead of shutting down, he rose to the challenge and is now like learning how to partner with drone delivery
little robot.
companies. Yeah, Chucky.
Yeah.
So like he is doing everything right. Everything that Carmi is like stuck in the mud in the old classical ways about and in his own head, Ibrahim is willing to go way out of his comfort zone and embrace new things, and it's been the only thing that is thriving about the endeavor. And the computer mentions that, like, he's like, yeah, y'all will shut down, but the only reason that this investment has any value is because of the sandwich shop.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple obvious trajectories that I was alluding to, that being one of them. Like, Carmi could combine forces and just go back to his roots and rename the sandwich shop Mikey's, you know, and that's the story. He could hand it off. He could, you know, remove himself from the situation altogether. After episode 1, that was the plot I was more, you know, kind of anticipating and curious about. After episode 2, I feel like the emotional journey that is interesting is whether Carmi stays with the shop or not. Like, is he going to get that spark back?
Yeah, I hope he does. But
yeah,
but he did just see that Sydney cook the pasta in 237, and he's like, "Oh, she has the spark, and I don't have it right now."
Yeah, is that spark or just like, I mean,
efficiency,
totally.
But she's like, it just means that she's like optimized everything. Like she's really killing it at work. So
yeah, I loved that moment because he is finally like opening his eyes enough to acknowledge other people's efforts and aptitude. Like he's the chosen one of the show, and he has brought the most out in people that didn't even know that they wanted to be in this business, like Tina, or like the high-end food business. Like he's inspired them, but Sydney is on his level, if not, like she was already on her own food trajectory, completely separate from him. She didn't necessarily, I mean, she did learn from him, but she's past the point where he's been helpful. He's been stifling her
for sure.
Yeah. And what do you want for her storyline? I mean, do you want her to take over this, or should she be the one that breaks away?
I mean, I obviously want to root for like I want the restaurant to survive, but I really want her to thrive. And I think that if she opens her own restaurant to where she can do whatever she wants, it's pretty ideal for her. But there's all these like beautiful relationships that she's formed, so she'd be leaving that behind and having a whole new staff. So I don't know what I want for her yet.
Yeah, she has a lovely moment with Marcus in one of the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, and
I think it's the start of episode 2.
Yep.
And obviously she loves Tina, and her and Carmi have, you know, a at times lovely relationship, of mutual respect. And the offer from Shapiro, the other restaurateur, is she'd be head chef and she would design the whole menu. I mean, like he's going to have obviously some creative control over aspects of the.
It seemed like he was kind of relinquishing all of it to her. Like
but he's picking the space, and like I could see like him being kind of like this chasing the next shiny thing, and she might think that the appeal of Carmi is that he's doing it purely for the love, or at least was love of food. Now he's doing it because he is basically like fighting back his other demons and doing it as a coping mechanism. But Shapiro might be more of like wanting the spotlight. You know, we see articles written about him. He's kind of aggressively pursuing her. I don't know. There could be a version where he's exploiting her for his own gain. But she would undoubtedly have more control over the kitchen.
Yeah.
But
if Carmi steps down, then she has complete control of the kitchen and the menu, and she helped design it, I'm sure. So,
I mean, he steps down in episode 2 and immediately relinquishes or gives in to her suggestion that isn't really a choice to reduce the number of elements in a dish from 5 to 3, whatever that means. Yeah.
Elements.
Yeah. So they're simplifying the scallops, and whatnot, but I don't know. I think this is definitely the right path. I was so episode 1, you watched them on like back-to-back nights?
No, I watched one yesterday and then one today.
Okay, yeah. I was so hyped after episode 1, because it's basically the last 20 minutes of the episode is a kitchen training montage.
Yeah, which I loved.
Yeah, so it's just like them trying to whip the kitchen into shape with the help of the new drill sergeant. I mean, that makes it sound like she's Carmi, like a new charismatic leader that's super competent and has her shit together. But also is sensitive to other people's what
great.
gets the most. Yeah. So we see that, and we see charts flying by, and we see the red profit line continuing to drop. That's why I don't think it would be very satisfying if they just magically win the Michelin star. I don't think that's the trajectory that would show any growth. That would show that Carmi was right the whole time, and his methods, his madness pays off.
But if he were to just kind of stay away from the restaurant, and then Sydney takes over, and they reinvent it without Carmi and get the star.
I mean, maybe I'm being a snob, but I don't think the sandwich window scenario that you described earlier qualifies for a Michelin star.
But if you took that sandwich and like took it apart and all this shit, like you do for like fancy plates, and then you mix it, you deconstruct it, and then you mix it with like some elements or bullshit, I bet you could get a star. Sure.
Well, okay. If it's that easy, why don't you get one?
That's it. Restaurants are simple.
So the secret to high cuisine is you take Philly cheesesteaks and you just pick them apart.
Yeah, just a little sprinkle.
Yeah. Nacho cheese.
They're gonna be like, "Oh, it was here all along, and this is how we get a star."
Well,
that's what's gonna happen.
I mostly agree. I just don't agree on the star part. I think the sandwich shop is the future of this location. I don't know who's going to be there, who's going to be involved. I don't know if Sydney is interested. I don't know if Carmi will be interested. If I had to guess, he's going to mostly hand it off to Ibrahim, but call it Mikey's and have put his touches on it, but not feel like he needs to have complete, control and ownership of the menu or anything.
And maybe not feel like a failure because they'll be like, well, he's still passing on the restaurant. The restaurant's still doing well, but just in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I thought it was interesting. We saw one of the other problems with season 3, while the restaurant opened, we spend no time on the floor. We see some of the chaos. We barely see the food being eaten by anyone. The review mentions multiple aspects of the experience, not just the food being off, being chaotic, a cold vibe, which somewhat is by design, but it's Carmi kind of being beholden to these traditional high cuisine attributes that are in polar opposite of what the conversation he has with Mikey. So he's waxing poetic about, in a little bit of a cliche way, about all the value of restaurants. All their best memories were at restaurants.
Yeah,
it's where people go to celebrate.
Exactly.
And then he brings up this Irish restaurant that his dad liked.
Finnegan's, I think.
Finnegan's, which is the second, has the second highest odds of being the name. That would probably be weird.
Or something.
Yeah, probably be weird if they called it Finnegan's, but yeah, so they didn't accomplish any of what he's describing in the atmosphere of the Bear that we've seen. We've seen moments with the team of celebration, but not at the restaurant.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's a shot in episode 2, I think, where we actually finally see the full restaurant floor and the blue walls and the window, the thin window into the kitchen. It's kind of beautiful, but it's pretty cool and sterile.
Yeah, like Carmi.
Yeah, and he's sitting at a table by himself, and Richie's trying to find a way in, and Carmi just won't give him one.
Yeah, and I don't want Richie to lose at this either, because it's the only thing he has. Is what he was
well,
saying.
He's spiraling. I mean,
Richie?
I don't know if he quit drinking at one point, but he's definitely drinking more, losing his grip on kind of what his value is because he
Yeah.
relinquished control of the kitchen to the woman he brought in, and he's not really doing a good job of writing his inspirational speeches and stuff either.
He's trying, but yeah,
he is trying, but he's spiraling.
Yeah.
And he literally, like, prays to the Lord that
Yeah.
he needs this to work because of what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
It's all he's got.
Gotta feel worth.
So, yeah. What other storylines or moments from these first two episodes were memorable for you?
I like that. Well, we talked about Ibrahim, but I like that he's going out on his own and, like, I don't know. He's just really killing it, and I love him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I think we talked about most of them. I feel bad about Tina. I don't know if she's ever going to get fast enough to make the pasta work, but we'll see. I think
Well,
she
that's-
will. Maybe.
That's what I was getting at with Spark versus, like, aptitude. If this was a sports team,
Yeah.
some people are going to just be naturally gifted at certain things more than others. Like, the kitchen is a combination of physical attributes, obviously mental, but creativity as well. So Tina was coming at it kind of not thinking about any of those aspects early on. She was just, she needed the job, and it was a beautiful environment. That was one of the standout episodes from last season. I think Napkins, it was called, where we learn that's another Mikey episode. We see how he brought her in to the restaurant family, and that gave her a purpose, like you were describing with Richie. But Io has the raw talent. Like, she's got the talent.
For sure.
She has the vision, and she still has the spark.
Yeah.
So she has everything that Carmi had and maybe could get back to, but that clock scene just literally, like, it's her beating him in a race and, being better at him at the technical aspects of the job.
Yeah. Yep.
And Tina can still serve a vital role. She's past her prime of just raw, like, technical skill, you would assume.
Yeah.
No matter how much she tries. And that's what the woman running the restaurant says, basically. Like, you'll get there. You should you can work on other things, like,
Take a break.
Yeah, you need, and Io just jumps on her station and immediately shaves a minute and a half off of the time.
Yeah.
Without any practice. So she's got the raw skills.
Man.
But we needed to be reminded of that because she's been so underutilized.
Yeah. Yep.
So do you think she's going to take the other job or not?
Let's see. I think she's too connected to this one. Unless this restaurant shuts down, I think she's going to stay with it.
Yeah, I kind of, we don't know if this is going to be the last season. So what I was mentioning earlier.
I thought it was. For some reason.
Well, that's the twist. The creators of the show, Christopher Story, and I should look up the other one.
I think it needs to be because they don't need to go any longer. It's really good. I don't want it to end on, like, season 6 where, like, don't care about it anymore. 3 or 4 seasons is a max. That's good.
Christopher Story, Joanna Callow, Renee Goob are writers. Christopher Story is the creator, and he's it's heavily inspired by his restaurant experience. He and other partners said, when I mentioned earlier, that this was a 3-season story that they were going to tell, and they in FX or
Money.
the powers to be convinced them to break season 3 into 2 parts. So what's interesting is that in the lead up to this season 4 premiere, they have not mentioned that this is the end, which you would think that would be kind of like a promotional tool
for ratings.
So people are speculating that by not saying that, they're leaving the door open, or it's already in negotiations. Who knows? So if this is the end, I would expect Carmi and Sydney both to go their own ways. and either Carmi just kind of like recedes into a different role and stays involved in what I assume will be Mikey's, but it's much more of a shared responsibility there with his sister and with Ibrahim and everyone else. But he's, it doesn't need a visionary of high cuisine, so that leaves Io needing to move on and do her own thing. I don't think there's a role for her that would utilize her talents at the sandwich shop unless they go with the deconstructed version that you're describing.
The star version.
Yeah. That still wouldn't be her vision, though. I mean, I'm sure she could reverse engineer it from a Philly cheesesteak to high cuisine, but that's probably not what she would create left to her own.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We've seen from the funeral for Ever episode that these people stay connected, and the restaurant community can span time and multiple locations. So she could still stay in touch, and come to family dinners or whatever.
That could be the ending of the season.
Yeah. So you want it, and so you think it should end here. Yeah. Well, and after the
right
end.
Now.
Yeah.
Don't answer any of my questions. Just end the whole show.
No.
No. I think this should be the last season. But of course, if it's not, I'm probably gonna watch the next one. But I think it should end.
Okay. Well, do you want more of season 4?
I definitely want more of season 4. Yes. Easy.
Last season was punishing. This season, all the scenarios that we laid out, is it a problem? The last thing I'll ask. We both seem pretty confident where it's going, and I don't think it's the type of the show. It's not Game of Thrones.
Twist.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want it to have a twist, but is there any dramatic, letdown or challenge if it just ends up going in the trajectory that we both anticipate? Is that a bad thing?
Actually, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I'm okay
it's
with
the journey.
Yeah, I'm okay with like a satisfying ending.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, oh, we know where it's going. I think that's fine.
Right.
It's not gonna be like a White Lotus where it's just like, oh, it's his father. Who cares?
Yeah, it's exactly. It's not a mystery box show. It has to manufacture kind of like plot drama with the ticking clock, and I mean, there is pretty major drama in whether the restaurant closes or not. But I just think it's a foregone conclusion. It's sad, but like I said, what I'm watching for this season the most is whether Carmen gets that spark back or
and what
not.
if that sparks towards something else?
Yeah, well, for a relationship.
His girlfriend comes back, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean he can't have a relationship because he's been so closed off and working through his trauma and family, sadness by expressing himself in food. But now, if he's lost the joy for that, he's just left with like the slog of running a unsuccessful restaurant into the ground.
So if Claire Bear came back, I guess I'd be okay with it at the very end if he like starts a relationship and then that's the end.
Yeah, I feel like that would be divisive just because that's such like a traditional fiction plot outcome, is like the happy ending is him finding love.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's pretty earned in this show.
Yeah,
like,
he's so sad. Give
yeah.
him something.
Yeah. I mean, what about the last thing that would feel crazy, but do you see anything between him and Sydney?
No.
Okay, good. Yeah. Let's just stop there and see what happens. If
put a lid
you
on
want
the soup or the sauce. A lid on
Sure.
the sauce.
Yeah, let it burn.
Let it simmer.
Yeah. There you go. Let it simmer. That's a nicer analogy. So if you want to simmer right along with us, then subscribe by searching New Release on Spotify or Apple or any other podcast platform. Ashley?
That's too much garlic.